Imagine Europe 50 years from now, but with tens of millions fewer people. EUROSTAT has made it clear, unless the situation changes, some European nations could see their population more than halved by 2075. Of course, these are just projections, so they can certainly change. However, their value lies not so much in predicting the future, but in helping us understand the present, to grasp the direction Europe has been taking in recent years. Today, we present the top 10 European countries projected to experience a significant population loss over the next 50 years. These forecasts also take into account a normal flow of migration. But are you curious to know which countries will face the steepest decline in their native population alone, without counting immigrants? Let us know by writing local in the comments. Welcome to this new video from Amazing Europe. Number 10. Estonia. Our first stop takes us to Estonia, one of the Baltic tigers. A cutting-edge country, a digital leader with a business-friendly economy, a top-quality education system, and a safe environment. It seems the opposite of a place at risk of depopulation. And yet, it's on our top 10 list. Why? The first red flag appears when we look at the recent past. Since the fall of the Soviet Union, Estonia has already lost over 10% of its population, a significant drain linked to that historic transition. And the future. Projections indicate a possible further decline of nearly 14% in the next 50 years. The root of the problem today is mathematical. The birth rate, just 7 births per 1,000 inhabitants, is dramatically lower than the death rate, almost 11.5 deaths per 1,000. Simply put, too few people are being born to replace those who die and those who, historically, have left. Estonia is actively trying to counter this trend by attracting immigrants, who already make up over 15% of the population, banking on its innovative economy and high quality of life. In recent years, a growing number of qualified EU citizens have moved here, sometimes even earning more than the locals. Efforts are also being made through trade agreements, such as those with China, in the hope of creating jobs and stopping the youth exodus. However, challenges remain. Immigrants report difficulties in socializing with Estonians and, despite a work culture praised for its flexibility and creativity, many express dissatisfaction with salaries and personal financial security. This complex mix, a weak internal demographic engine, a history of emigration, and challenges in fully retaining both locals and newcomers, partly explains why even such a dynamic and advanced nation as Estonia is facing the spectre of a drastic demographic decline. Number 9. Greece. We continue this demographic alarm with Greece, a nation facing a crisis so deep that it fully justifies our shock alert. Imagine this. Between 2010 and 2022, the country has already lost over 10% of its population, an astonishing number. And future projections are even more worrying. A further decline of up to a dramatic 18% is expected over the next 50 years or so if current trends continue. But what are the causes behind this seemingly unstoppable population drain? Mainly two powerful forces. First, a historically low birth rate. Think about it. Every year, 71,000 fewer babies are born compared to the 1960s, and for more than 20 years now, deaths have consistently outnumbered births. The fertility rate has dropped to a concerning 1.41 children per woman, far from the replacement level of 2.1 needed to keep the population stable. On top of that, Greek women are having children later and later, around the age of 31 or 32. The second key factor is mass emigration. This was worsened by the devastating economic crisis that began in 2009. The infamous brain drain saw over 500,000 young Greeks, often the most educated and skilled, leave the country in search of better opportunities abroad. This exodus deprived Greece of a crucial portion of its fertile and productive population. The combined effect of very few births and widespread emigration? A spectacular and rapid aging of the population. The median age has soared to 44, making Greece one of the oldest countries in Europe. The number of elderly people per 100 workers has nearly doubled in the past 50 years. This demographic storm, fueled by economic crisis and empty cradles, poses enormous challenges for the future of Greece. Number 8. Slovakia. Now we turn our attention to Slovakia, a country that, at first glance, might seem surprising on this list. It boasts a stable economy, low income inequality, and high levels of safety. And yet, behind this facade lies a shadow that partly explains its place in our top 10, a deep and widespread housing crisis with alarming demographic consequences. The core issue? Finding affordable housing has become extremely difficult. Buying a home requires high down payments that are often out of reach, and the rental market is severely lacking. This situation literally traps the younger generations. An astonishing 57% of Slovaks aged 25 to 34 still live with their parents. Not due to a lack of employment. Most of them have stable jobs, but because wages simply don't keep up with real estate prices. The average age for leaving the family home has shot up to 31, significantly delaying the formation of new independent families. This housing pressure has an extreme and shocking manifestation. Slovakia has the highest percentage of homeless people in all of Europe, a figure that has grown exponentially. We're talking about over 71,000 individuals, with a worrying 15% under the age of 15. It's the most severe symptom of a social hardship that makes it hard to put down roots and build a future. Even though the country serves as a transit corridor for migrants heading elsewhere, these flows don't translate into new, stable residents. The difficulty in building an independent life for its youth, combined with these signs of social stress, casts a long shadow over Slovakia's demographic future, and these are just some of the factors driving emigration and low birth rates. For these and other reasons, Slovakia is projected to lose 18.69% of its population over the next 50 years. Number 7. Portugal. In Portugal, the numbers are among the most alarming. Projections indicate a potential loss of over 25% of its population within the next 50 years. A staggering decline. But what exactly is happening in this Atlantic-facing country? Portugal is suffering from a true demographic hemorrhage, mainly in the form of mass emigration. It is the EU country with the highest number of citizens living abroad, over 1.5 million in the past 20 years, with a current total of around 2.1 million. Even more concerning is the fact that this is largely a youth talent exodus. About 30% of Portuguese people, aged 15 to 39, live outside the country, and an incredible 73% of young people consider leaving after completing their studies. Adding to this exodus is an extremely low birth rate, just 1.45 children per woman, with deaths consistently outnumbering births. Raising a child is expensive, and economic insecurity combined with a housing crisis, worsened by the tourism boom, forces over half of young adults aged 25 to 34 to continue living with their parents, delaying the creation of new families. The direct consequence? A rapid and dizzying aging of the population. The number of elderly people dependent on the active workforce has more than doubled over the past 50 years, one of the fastest rates in Europe. Although Portugal attracts immigrants thanks to its high quality of life and welcoming culture, this influx is not enough to offset the outflow of its own people and the empty cradles, posing colossal challenges for the country's future. Number 6. Poland. Poland is a country experiencing strong economic growth, but one that hides a ticking demographic time bomb. The projections are clear and worrying. If current trends continue, Poland could lose nearly 27% of its population within the next 50 years. A drastic decline for one of Europe's largest nations. At the heart of this crisis is a historically low birth rate, as confirmed by 2023 and 2024 data. The gap between births and deaths is alarmingly wide. There are only 8.7 births per 1,000 inhabitants compared to 12.9 deaths. The fertility rate has dropped to a mere 1.32 children per woman, and the average age at which women become mothers continues to rise. Youth job insecurity and the difficulty of starting a family are major contributing factors. But it's not just about too few births. Poland is also a country of emigration. Many Poles, especially young people, seek better opportunities elsewhere in Europe. This double blow, empty cradles and emigration, is triggering a steep aging of the population. The median age is expected to surpass 50, and the number of elderly people dependent on the workforce is forecast to double by the end of the century, putting massive strain on the pension system. Currently, for every 100 people of working age, there are around 29 elderly individuals. If nothing changes, by 2100 there will be 60 for every 100 workers. Despite support measures such as the Rodzina 800 Plus family allowance, the trend shows no sign of reversing. And although Poland has welcomed many Ukrainian refugees, this is not enough to compensate for the long-term structural decline. Poland's demographic challenge is immense. Number 5. Croatia. Despite a remarkable economic recovery after the conflicts of the past, Croatia is facing a serious demographic hemorrhage that defies its surface-level prosperity. The future projections are staggering. If current trends continue, Croatia could lose almost 30% of its population by 2075, a truly breathtaking figure. The country has already seen a massive population decline. About 17% disappeared between 2010 and 2022. This silent diaspora is driven by a low fertility rate, only 1.46 children per woman, and a death rate far exceeding the number of births, with a historic low reached in 2023. But what are the main causes? Chief among them is high emigration. And here's something unique and alarming. It's not just rural areas that are emptying out, but cities as well, an uncommon trend. At the root of the issue is a deep housing crisis, with property prices in cities like Zagreb exceeding €3,000 per square metre, while the average net salary hovers around €1,300. Combine that with economic uncertainty and a lack of stable employment, and it's no surprise that 68% of young people see this as an insurmountable barrier to starting a family. Over 64% of those aged 25 to 34 still live with their parents, typically leaving home around the age of 32. The inevitable result? A rapidly aging population. The number of elderly people per 100 working-age individuals has jumped from 15 to over 36 in the past 50 years, a dizzying increase. Although Croatia has recently recorded positive net migration thanks to foreign workers, this trend is not enough to reverse the deep demographic decline. And here's a broader, more sensitive point worth discussing. In Croatia, as in many other countries, there's growing debate over whether it's right to rely on immigration to compensate for population loss. Many people question if replacing the native population with migrants is a sustainable or desirable solution. We'd really love to know what you, our community, think about this controversial topic. Number 4. Bulgaria. Bulgaria is facing one of the most dramatic demographic declines in Europe. Projections suggest the country could lose over 36% of its population within the next 50 years. This is not just a decline, it's a full-blown population collapse, considering that Bulgaria has already lost more than 22% of its inhabitants over the past 30 years. What's behind this demographic catastrophe? Two main factors stand out with chilling clarity. First, Bulgaria holds the grim record for the highest mortality rate in the entire European Union, with shocking figures, up to 18 deaths per 1,000 people. Life expectancy here is the lowest in Europe, and alarmingly, it is still declining. A unique case in the EU. Local doctors point to lifestyle as the main culprit. Smoking, alcohol abuse, and poor diet are severely harming the population's health. Second, there's the issue of mass emigration, particularly among young people, a trend that accelerated after Bulgaria joined the EU. Many Bulgarians seek abroad the opportunities and economic security that are lacking at home. This is driven in part by severe economic inequality. The average salary is below €1,000, and even among those with jobs, nearly half of young adults still live with their parents until the age of 30. The richest 20% of the population earn 7.3 times more than the poorest 20%, one of the highest disparities in Europe. Although Bulgarian women tend to have children relatively early, and the fertility rate is not the lowest in Europe, these births barely scratch the surface of what's needed to offset the extremely high number of deaths and the relentless youth exodus. The result? A frightening rate of population aging. Today, there are about 34 people over 65 for every 100 working-age individuals, which is double the ratio seen 50 years ago. If nothing changes, Bulgaria's demographic future looks increasingly bleak. Number 3. Romania. Our shock alert reaches an even more critical level with Romania. The situation here is described in no uncertain terms as dramatic, a crisis without precedent. If current trends continue, Romania is projected to lose a staggering 41.5% of its population by 2075, a truly spine-chilling figure. To put it in perspective, the country already lost more than 13% of its people between 2010 and 2022. What's behind this potential demographic collapse? The number one factor is mass emigration. Romania has been experiencing a massive exodus that began after the fall of communism in 1989 and accelerated dramatically after joining the EU in 2007. Today, it's estimated that 5.5 million Romanians live abroad, a constant outflow of people searching for a better future. Then there's the issue of a shockingly high mortality rate, about 15.4 deaths per 1,000 people, an alarming number linked, like in neighbouring Bulgaria, to widespread health problems and lifestyle-related illnesses. But why are young people leaving or struggling to start families? Despite being one of the EU countries with rapid economic growth, especially in the automotive industry, young Romanians aren't reaping the benefits. Youth unemployment is sky-high, over 22%, and more than 12% of those aged 15 to 19 are neither studying nor working, trapped in a vicious cycle of disillusionment that fuels emigration. Adding to the crisis is Europe's highest inflation rate as of January 2024, which has driven a 40% surge in prices compared to just 3 years ago. This economic strain is squeezing families and making long-term stability seem out of reach. Altogether, it's a perfect storm. Mass emigration, poor public health, youth unemployment, and rising living costs, threatening the very future of Romania. Number 2. Lithuania. You won't believe the data we're about to share. This Baltic nation is facing one of the most severe demographic crises in Europe, with projections that defy imagination. If nothing changes, it could lose nearly 60% of its population by 2075. 60%. A true demographic collapse, which has already seen almost 29% of the population disappear in just 30 years. Let's remember that Eurostat's numbers are only projections, so they can definitely change. More than predicting the future, they're useful for understanding the present, where we're headed if things continue this way. Of course, emigration, especially of young people, is a key factor. A constant flight toward better opportunities that even economic growth hasn't been able to stop, while immigration remains far too low to make up for the losses. But what makes Lithuania's situation especially dramatic and unique on this list is its extremely high mortality rate, which shows no sign of decreasing and is twice the birth rate. And the causes? Here, the situation is both tragic and specific. Experts point to 3 main killers that are literally decimating the population. Alcoholism, a true national scourge, affecting 1 in 3 men severely. Widespread obesity, with over 60% of adults overweight. And, most devastatingly, suicide. Lithuania has held the sad record for suicides in both the EU and the OECD for years. A tragedy worsened by poor mental health services and low healthcare spending. Adding to this bleak picture are severe economic inequality, a galloping housing crisis, and worrying levels of poverty among the elderly. It's a lethal mix of social, health, and economic problems that is eroding Lithuania's future at a terrifying pace. Before we reveal number 1, if you found this video informative, we kindly ask you to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so you won't miss our new videos. And don't forget about our new channel, America vs. Europe, where we rank US states, Canadian provinces, and European countries based on various factors. And remember, If you want to find out which European countries will face the largest decline in local population over the next 50 years, write local in the comments. Number 1. Latvia. Latvia has long been considered one of the European nations most at risk of depopulation. If current trends continue, Latvia could lose a staggering 61.7% of its population by 2075. Of course, like other Baltic nations, high emigration, especially of young people in search of opportunities, is a key driver of this decline, a flow that past economic growth has not managed to stop and that extremely low immigration fails to offset. But what makes Latvia's situation uniquely and particularly alarming is the combination with other devastating internal factors. The high mortality rate is a major issue, made worse by a still concerning suicide rate. But even more shocking is the enormous gap in life expectancy between men and women, a full 10 years, double the EU average. This phenomenon is attributed to higher cancer rates and widespread neglect of health among men. Added to this are deep socio-economic wounds. Latvia suffers from one of the worst income inequalities in Europe. Just think, the richest 20% of the population earns 6.3 times more than the poorest 20%. On top of that, there is a dramatic geographical divide. The wealthy capital Riga thrives, while the rest of the country struggles with poverty and depopulation. Consider that Riga and its surrounding areas generate up to 69% of the national GDP and have salaries nearly double those in the poorest regions. Add to this a severe housing crisis, with skyrocketing prices and rents that make it nearly impossible for young people and families to find a home, and a homelessness problem more serious than in neighbouring countries. It's a perfect storm that explains this terrifying projection. Please note that these forecasts take into account the number of immigrants both now and in 2075. But if you want to find out which European countries will see the biggest drop in local population over the next 50 years, if things keep going this way, write local in the comments. You can't fully understand this video unless you also watch the one on screen, where we reveal which nations have already experienced major population losses over the past 30 years. And in that video, we look not only at the countries examined by EUROSTAT, but at all European countries. That's it for this video. See you next time.